This is Target Score Weekly with Joey Slattery and Taylor Allen. Welcome to episode 2 of Target Score Weekly with myself, Joey Slattery, and Taylor Allen. Taylor, it might be that this podcast is bad luck for the Winnipeg Sea Bears because after the first episode, they're 1-2 after a really rough road trip in Montreal and Ottawa. We'll get to that in a second. We do have a busy show though, including we are recording this just on the heels of Canada Day weekend. So we're going to do our all-Canadian draft. All-Canadian, all-time, starting 5 plus a 6th man. Taylor and I have been chirping about this back and forth, so it should be a good draft. But of course, we got to break down these games first. And also, you have, Taylor, an update on one of the rumored players that could be joining the Sea Bears too, right?
I do. Yeah, we could save that for later in the show. But yeah, you kind of alluded to it already. But I mean, I had a really good long weekend. Went golfing, saw some family, saw friends. But the Sea Bears, yeah, this was not a great Canada Day long weekend for them with two pretty big road losses for them. I mean, they're still sitting pretty, first place in their division right now. But yeah, if they could have won even just one or even both those games, obviously they would have been in really good shape heading into the home stretch here. But yeah, I guess maybe we should start with that Ottawa game. That was definitely the uglier loss of the two. What was your big takeaway from that one?
Well, it could be, Taylor, that they were on holiday as well. The Ottawa game particularly was bad. I mean, the Ottawa. Let's start by saying that this was the game. This was the stretch of the schedule last week that I was very concerned about. Right when you were asking me for my predictions, I said this could be the weekend that turns around the season, for better or worse. They got the win in Winnipeg before they went off and got a little separation. They were 8-3 heading on the road. I believe it was 6-5 were the Calgary Surge at that point. So they had a little bit of breathing room. And then they go to Ottawa. And I think it was a cross of like a perfect storm, if you will. I think that was probably one of the worst games we've seen Winnipeg play. And, I don't watch every Ottawa basketball game, but they were really good. And their play-by-play guy, AJ Jakubek, was saying that I'm pretty sure he's been with the team since its inception in 2019, and he said that was the most complete game that he's seen that team play in its entirety. And he said that a few times throughout the broadcast, and they did play well. But, I mean, I don't even know where to start with this game. They were just, they were outworked. They were outplayed. I mean, I'd say, like, aside from maybe, like, EJ Anasike, Chad Posthumous had a double-double. Anasike had a double-double as well. But they just couldn't get anything going. Ottawa was just toying with them in every which way. It felt like, I mean, it was start to finish. It was a blowout. It kind of felt like that Edmonton game back here in Winnipeg earlier in the season, where it's just they couldn't find traction. And I was impressed with so many players with Ottawa. I'll get to that in a second. But I just overall talking about that game, Winnipeg didn't show up, and Ottawa was more than ready for Winnipeg. It looked like a team that was trying to take over first place in their Western Conference with that win, with the other team clearly with a cushion.
Yeah, watching that game, you would not have thought that this was the two best teams in the league going at it. I mean, from the opening tip, Ottawa was the better team. I mean, just in the opening few minutes of the game, they had 4 different guys hit 3-pointers before the midway point of the first quarter. Like, they were on fire. The end of the game shooting 50%. I mean, that's a tough number to beat, obviously. Just Ottawa, I mean, they took it to Winnipeg the entire game, right? And I mean, you can't just say, well, Ottawa's in a different conference, we'll worry about them later in playoffs and stuff. But I mean, I got this wrong in our first episode, but I mean, really, Winnipeg, it doesn't matter what conference they're in, because they need to be the first overall seed if they want to bye to the semifinal weekend, because Vancouver, being the hosts, they're automatically getting one of those 2 berths to the semifinals. So they're going to be representing, in that Final Four regardless, right? So yeah. Winnipeg, I mean, that was a huge, huge loss, losing to Ottawa. So yeah, that was not a pretty one. I mean, sometimes a team gets hot from deep and you can't beat them, right? But yeah, that was probably next to the Edmonton game where they got spanked. That was probably their second worst defeat of the year, I'd say.
Well, it just seemed that Ottawa was 2 steps ahead at every play. I mean, there's a couple times where Winnipeg just like their defense was on ice. They looked just out of sorts on defense. They were, heads were turning every which way. They didn't know where the rotation was. And there was quick ball movement from Ottawa. Like they were just clicking. Tommy Scrubb, I think, had 8 points in the first quarter. I think he finished with 14. And that's a U Sports guy. That's a guy that played for Carleton back in the day. There were a couple plays too where he schooled Simon Hildebrand, which was kind of fun to watch. Not to see that that Simon was getting like schooled in that sense, but it was kind of cool to see the old guard of U Sports and the new guard. Like I would love to have been there to ask about that. Like, do you feel as an old U Sports guy that's gone and played pro and everything else and had a really successful pro career, like do you take that upon yourself, when you see the up and comers having this opportunity that you didn't have when you played? But Tommy Scrubb impressed me, but so did Kadre Gray. Like, and I'll say shout out to him because he's an Laurentian University alumni like myself. We didn't go to school at the same time, but I saw that guy play in university. I only saw the one game. This would have been a few years back, like 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. He was impressive back then. Like this guy played for Team Canada as a U Sports athlete. He was called up to the men's national team from Laurentian University. Like he's the real deal, man. He had a nice N1 when Teddy Allen was coming back, and Teddy showing a ton of effort on it, coming back trying to go for the block from behind and got called for the foul, a hard foul at that. But Kadre Gray, I mean, the guy's shooting threes. His facilitating was exceptional. And, they just, there was no one way of attack in terms of, sometimes they were driving, other times they were just kind of going off pick and rolls. Other times they were just kind of, it was all ball movement on the top of the, above the arc, but like above the key. And it was just enough movement to have the Winnipeg defenders moving all over the place. But yeah, it was just such a complete game from Ottawa. And it's at no point in that game did I feel Winnipeg was coming back in any way, shape, or form. Like, again, Teddy had 26 and 10. He was really the only guy that him and EJ Anasike really were the only ones that I felt were really putting in I want to say putting in an effort, but an effort that was paying off. Even Chad, early on, he had a couple of offensive boards. He was battling down low 16 and 11, but it was nowhere near enough. I mean, there was no one off the bench. They didn't get a spark off the bench from anybody. It was just very quiet, and it just seemed like anytime there might be a chance, they'd maybe string together like a 4-0 run, and Ottawa comes back with a big three. And yeah, it was tough to watch, to sit down and watch that one, and the way it was billed as two of the top teams. Chad going back to Ottawa, played there last year. It just seemed like there was a lot there, and I think the only people more disappointed than the people that watched that game, especially if they're Winnipeg fans, would be the Sea Bears. Ottawa fans, I'm sure they're very happy with the game, even though it might not have been the prettiest. It was very pretty by their team standard, and it was a very complete game, and it was a statement game for Ottawa. Now they're both 8-5, right? And now it's we were talking this whole first half of the season, Winnipeg's the best team. Are they still? I don't know.
I hate to pick on this guy specifically because what you said was spot on. I mean, after EJ and Teddy, I mean, really no one had that big of a game. I mean, Chad had a pretty solid game, but their bench just really produced nothing, really. But Glenn Yang, starting point guard, played 20 minutes. He almost had the Sam Mitchell 0-0-0-0-0 stat line. He had 0 points and 1 assist. He had 2 boards and a steal in there as well. But I mean, I know he's had a couple moments this year where he's been pretty solid and he's hit some big shots, and he'll be a trivia question forever, right? And being the first guy to score a basket in Sea Bears history, but you can't lean on that forever, right? But yeah, 0 points in 20 minutes, 1 assist, and then the next game against Montreal plays 32 minutes and has only 2 points.
Right.
So in Glenn Yang's last 52 minutes on the court, Joey Slattery, he's got 2 points. And again, I know he's not the main scorer, right? I know the offense doesn't go through Glenn Yang. It's EJ, Teddy, those are the guys who want the ball in their hands, and Jelani as well. But you need some more production out of him. You just do. And another thing I think that's hurting this team, if I'm being honest, I mean, Chad is really, hitting his stride right now. He's had a couple of really good games in a row these past couple weeks. But just some teams he just does not match up very well
No.
against. So he doesn't close out many games, right? So that kind of forces the team sometimes to have Simon Hildebrand out there at the end of the game. And he's a fantastic story, and he's going to have an incredible pro career. I mean, Chad himself even said this is a kid who could play in the NBA one day, which I don't know if that's really true or not. But even then, like, I think the Bisons are going to be, getting a hell of a player for at least 3, if not 4 more years from Simon. But for a guy to just play 1 year of U Sports basketball, and he's playing the 4 or the 5 for your team in crunch time, is that really going to be a recipe for success in the playoffs? I don't know. I know he's had his moments, right? Like, he's had some pretty big games, but he's also had a couple of games where it's been obvious that he's a kid playing against some grown men.
Well, to your point, talking about the bench and the fact that it's falling on the same scores time after time. I mean, we didn't even talk about Deng Adel, and he was the game's leading scorer. Or sorry, not the game's leading scorer, Ottawa's leading scorer. He had 25 points, 5 boards, and 3 assists in that game. And he was another guy hitting from all over, like whether it was inside, stretching outside. But it's because you've got the playmakers. 4 guys on that team scored in double figures, and the bench combined for 18 points for Ottawa. Like, you know what I mean? Everything was clicking. You couldn't lock in on one guy. Like, you have to give Gray all the attention as the point guard because of his ability to dribble through, create opportunities for himself and others. But then somewhere you're sacrificing on the court because they had so many guys, like so many targets that can score, and so many guys that were hitting too, right? Like I said, it was the perfect storm. Does this happen next time they play? That's the hard part, because you look at it as, it looked really bad, but I do believe that Winnipeg wasn't at full tilt. I think things weren't falling and they couldn't get that momentum going at any point. I don't know if Ottawa does that again. Again, listening to the play-by-play, this seems to be their most complete game. Whether they build on it, we'll soon see. But I really do want to see this rematch because I think there's a bit of a sour taste in the mouth of the Sea Bears, although it didn't really look like it in Game 2. And that is where we will go to next. So yeah, Game 2, Taylor Allen, it was better, but it wasn't great.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I hate to bash Glenn Yang again, but again, 2 points, 32 minutes. Can't be having that.
You
from your
are
starting
not part of
point
the
guard.
Yang. You are not part of the Yang gang. You are
No,
not part. Never
I'm
should
not.
provoked.
I'm really not, but I'll move off of Glenn Yang for now. But Teddy Allen, I mean, he played 40 minutes against Ottawa, played 36 or 37, sorry, against Montreal. And I know he's not going to be red hot every game. He's not going to score 40 points every game. But 1 of 9 from 3. When Teddy, their go-to guy, is having an off game like that, I think, probably 7 to 8 times out of 10, they're not coming away with the win. And I mean, you look at the target score, the time at the end of that game, right? They were in it.
Yeah,
they were in it, but they just could not buy a bucket. And Teddy, I mean, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, right? But some of the shots he was taking towards the end of that game, like the clock is off. You don't need to rush a shot, right? But he's jacking up, step back 3, still has a hand in his face. It's like, man, what are you doing? And I know he's not going to get a wide open 3, right? Like, teams, the scouting report is out there. They know that they got to be draped all over him, especially in crunch time. But yeah, I just found in target score, I mean, the game was for the taking, right? Like, they really could have had it. I mean, Glenn Yang, he had a wide open 3. He barely even hits the rim. Simon, he had a wide open 3. He misses it. He gets the rebound, and he runs straight into a guy and gets a charge. You'd much rather him see kind of take like a 2-foot, jump there and just do a nice little floater or something like that. But Jelani, he blew past the guy in target score time and, had a easy layup, but he kind of went up a little soft with it and couldn't finish that. So, yeah, they just could not catch a break in that target score. So, yeah, that game, the Ottawa game, it was over by halftime, basically. But the Montreal game, I think that one, in a way, almost kind of stings even more because they could have won that one.
it was a huge opportunity miss.
Absolutely.
And here's what I'll say, too, going back to your Teddy Allen thing, because the thing I noticed with Teddy Allen with that is, there's one thing with Teddy is I feel, because we don't see it too often, but it feels like sometimes when the game is, when they're behind, I wouldn't say on the line because he doesn't do too much in target score, but in the games where they need to come back, that's where he feels the need to take the game over, right? Where he gets really kind of laser focused on just scoring and, when he's trying to get the big shots. And what I'll say is with Teddy in that game, he was most effective driving to the basket, right? Like anytime he got within 5 feet of the basket, he was scoring. Wasn't working for three. But that's what Montreal was doing so well, Taylor. Montreal was just their transition game. They were just more athletic. And that was one thing I know Mike Taylor said about this team. Like he knew they were athletic. He knew the challenge they were up against going into it. But like it really showed in this game. Their transition was great. But the thing Montreal did every single offensive possession, nearly every single offensive possession, was they take the ball and they drive to the middle of the paint every time. And it collapsed Winnipeg's defense where you'd have 4, sometimes 5 guys around the one guy with the ball. And it was a kick out. You had 3 options at the 3 and you had another guy down low in the Russian spot. And it was time after time. And the transition helped because it seemed to just wear down Winnipeg enough. And then when they did get set off or defensively, it was get the ball to, whoever, like Ahmed Hill, whether it was, or Alain Louis was a guy that I really liked, actually. Like, he was really athletic. He had some great takes to the hoop, but they would just drive in the middle and they'd find the open man and they just trusted each other. Like, there's, again, another team, 4 guys hitting double figures in scoring. Nathan Caio, 28 points, 10 boards. He even had 2 steals on top of that. Like, these guys were I think we saw the best in Montreal, and I think the one hope I'll take with that is that even when Winnipeg was not playing well, they were still within striking distance. That, to me, was more of a reflection of this team, that when they're not playing well, I do think they're still a really good team. And that's what good teams do, right? You're getting outplayed, but there's some way you keep it close and you keep it within striking distance. The difference is they didn't get it done.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the numbers too, right? I mean, they shot 29% from 3, 34% from the field. So obviously it was an off night, so to only lose by 4 points on the road to some brutal shooting by the whole team, really.
Totally, yeah. I think it's
not that you can live with that, but for sure.
Like, and that's like, it's almost like the worst time for a back-to-back when you have a game like that. There's 2 ways that you approach it, right? You know this. It's you're so excited to get that bad game behind you that it serves as motivation into that second game, or that momentum or lack thereof carries over to that second game. And that, unfortunately, I think was what happened to Winnipeg, that quick trip from, Ottawa to Montreal, bouncing right back at it. Again, it was a better game. And I will say EJ Anasike had a great stretch here from like these last 3 games. I can't remember what his stat line was for the home game that they had, but he was the player of the game, and he had some major, because there are a few times in that game where it felt like they were out of it, right? Because what were they down? They were outscored like really bad in the second quarter. I want to say it was 30 to 15. Anyway, I think it was 30-15 in the second quarter. They were only down 10, or I think it was 11 at the half, but it felt like it was out. But he made some huge dunks in that game. They come back. They end up leading into the target score and winning that game. That was against, who did they play? Was it the Rattlers? No. Who was their last home game?
The Rattlers.
Yeah,
right?
I think that was the one. But anyway, in that game here, I'm just going to pull it up real quick. I don't know why it's slipping my mind. No, the River Lions. Yeah, no. That was another big game. So against Niagara, like they went down and Niagara was kind of having their way with them, but then they battled back in the second quarter. That's what was missing in the Montreal game. The Ottawa game, they never really had a chance, but though it was missing too. But in that Montreal game, it was just they never got over the hump, I guess, like in terms of being able to give themselves a separation. They held the lead a couple times, but I don't know if the lead was any more than 6. It's just where with Niagara, they were down so much and they just chipped away in the third quarter, and EJ Anasike had just a bomb second half. That was a hard game though. I mean, Jelani hit some big shots, and Teddy Allen also had a huge game, a big steal that turned into the transition that brought the game to, I think, within 3 points or whatever it was. But yeah, it was they were riding the high from home, and it just, when they got away from home, you don't have that crowd behind you. Though I have to say, I have to get my player of the week this week would be EJ Anasike. Like, even when things weren't going well, he played really well.
Yeah, and I'll put my Winnipeg Free Press hat on for a second. I actually had a really good sit-down interview with EJ on Friday. We spoke for over 20 minutes, and I did my homework on him, but there was tons of things that I didn't know about him. Like he was telling me that he used to live with the Ball family, like the man himself, LeVar Ball, the most insert your word of choice here, guy in basketball. He was telling me he used to, train and scrimmage with all the Ball brothers and stuff like that. And he played Drew League with on LeVar Ball's team. And he scored 40 points against DeMar DeRozan, and you played Duke in March Madness. Yeah, like he's only 24, only in the second year of his pro career. But EJ, it's kind of how I led my story too. Is like, man, this guy could already basically write a book about his basketball life and where it's taken him. He won MVP of the Korean Basketball League playoffs last year as well. So yeah, he's a hooper for sure.
And
And yeah,
that's even beyond his philanthropy. Like he like is doing work for to get shoes out to Nigerian, like in Nigeria, to kids that can't afford to play and things like that, to try and get them the opportunity to play basketball. Like he's all over the map. He's got such a great story, and it's funny because even with the Ball brothers, I'm like, when you first said that, I was thinking, with LeVar, he doesn't really have that mouthy edge to him, but like none of the Ball boys really do, not to the extent their
no, not
dad
at
anyway.
all.
So maybe it is fitting that he has that character, but no, I'd say that was my player of the week, but that was really the only bright spot after that game against Niagara. Those two games on the road were rough.
Yeah, and I think Joey, I don't think it's unfair to say that the Sea Bears kind of need some more out of their Canadian players right now.
Big
I mean, you
time.
look at the team, EJ, Teddy, Jelani, they have all kind of taken turns or have, being, having those big moments in a game, right? Or even two of them having big moments in a game and really, leading the team to victory. But and there has been games from the Canadian guys too, right? But I just feel like overall, especially this weekend, they did not get enough from those guys. I mean, uh, Hildebrandt again, Okafor, Asiande, Glenn Yang. I've beaten that horse to death already. Chad, Possumus. He's been the best of the group by far, but I just feel like they really need more from that group. I mean, you can't just lean on your big three for every night, right? So
Totally. And even
I
Chad, like, in terms of scoring, like it depends on the game. And I don't think you could really put that on him in terms of, you need the guard play. Like, and I know Simon, has been really working on his shooting and things like that, working with EJ and Asike actually. And like he can hit those threes and he's your stretch four, but like that's where you need to see it more from him and Glenn Yang, like the guys that can score from more areas of the court and be a little more dynamic, and we're not seeing it. And you're right, like with Glenn Yang, I mean, you're the point guard, but even the facilitation, like, like you got to be racking in at least, wouldn't say at least, but you should be trying to get to like a close to 10 and really making the scoring easy for your teammates if you're not scoring yourself. But there's times like he had the Glenn Yang game, right? Like there was the game that he went off was 14 points, 7 in the target score. But that's all we've really seen from it. It was to the point where I thought he turned a corner. And I guess he's just not there yet. And that'll be a big thing for them moving down the road. Is you're right. Like the Canadians need to start picking it up. And to be fair, like I don't think it falls on Simon Hildebrand as your U Sports guy. Even like
No,
hey,
but he's shooting 28% though, and you
yeah,
shouldn't be leaning on this guy too much, right? Like he should not be the determining factor whether you're a championship team or not, this freshman out of the U of M.
yeah,
But if he could just hit a couple more of those open shots, it would make a world of a difference because there's been quite a few times where, he's open in the corner or something like that and he just can't sink it. And again, I don't think many guys with his experience would be doing any better than he is. And again, considering his experience, he has, he's played decently well, right? But again,
totally.
if they could get just some better shooting out of him, oh my goodness, it would make a huge difference, big time.
And it might come. You know what I mean? Like I said, when we had that the mid season review, I said I was a little disappointed with certain things because he had such a hot start, like 13 points in that second half of that first game. But then he kind of fizzled out a little bit. In that Montreal game, he had 9 points. I know, like off the top of my head, he had a nice little like two dribbles in at the elbow. Like he had like he dribbled in, pulled up at the elbow. Nice 2 points there, and then he had another 3-pointer that he hit that was money. But you're right. It's got to be a little more consistent. I think that's a thing that'll come with time. He's young. It's his first year. Like, this has been a big year for Simon Hildebrand. It's not to defend him by any stretch, but like blasted out of U Sports, had a great year, led the team in scoring to their best record, U Sports Rookie of the Year. This is really his first lull in his career, I imagine. I didn't follow his whole high school career, but when's the last time that Simon Hildebrand was humble and was, a guy, not the guy, if that makes sense, right? So this is a learning experience for him too. But, like you alluded to it, even though he's not Canadian, like AJ Hess, another guy that's got to pick it up a little bit. I mean, he was 3 for 5 in the Montreal game, but at that rate, you want to see maybe a couple more threes put up if you're hitting them, and then there's the days where he's 1 for 5, 1 for 6, like he's so inconsistent, and that's why they brought him in. But you're right. Like the depth, I think the depth is there. Jelani being the big one, right? Like I think I can't say he's a shoo-in for sixth man of the year, but he's definitely up there in the talks. But if your Canadians can't produce for you, you can't, you know what I mean? You're really screwed. And at some point, Jelani comes off the bench for a reason. He's the international import. Glenn Yang gets the start. And if you're getting that start, you really, really have to start producing.
Yeah, and I mean, our last episode, I did say I think the Sea Bears are going to make the finals, so I can't backtrack too much on my word. But I will say, though, when this roster first came together, the reason why I did think, and I've been proven wrong, obviously, but the reason why I did think that this team was not going to be very good is because I just didn't think there's any depth outside of Teddy and EJ. I mean, Jelani was a big question mark, a Division II guy from London. No one really knew what to expect from him.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought this team was really lacking in depth, and I thought if Teddy wasn't on, who the heck's going to score the ball for this team? And like I said, they've kind of proven me wrong or proven a lot of people wrong to an extent. But yeah, if they're gonna go on a run in Vancouver on championship weekend, this bench needs to produce more. And I mean, Teddy Allen playing 40 minutes a night, that's not something you really want, especially when you're playing, 2 games on a weekend on the road. Like, there's only so much that guy could do. And, not to compare him to LeBron, obviously, but, you watch the Lakers, now, right? He just plays so much that when you see him in the fourth quarter, his legs are toast. I know LeBron's 100 years old, but I mean, that's kind of thing. You don't want to run your best player into the ground where when it does get to target score time, there's only so much they could do. And that's why they're jacking up these Hail Mary threes, because they just don't have their legs underneath them, right? So if they could get some more production from AJ Hess, who I do think is trending in the right direction, and some of these Canadian guys, you don't have to lean on EJ and Teddy so heavily. So this weekend, I think everyone kind of is taking a step back to reality that, the Sea Bears, maybe they're not the best team in the league overall, but hey, there's still a lot of basketball to be played. And I think another thing too is, again, this weekend was another great reminder of just the parity in this league. I mean, I think of course you want to get that number 1 seed. Of course you want that bye to the semifinals, but I think, whoever makes it to that weekend, anyone's got a chance. Right, because I think anyone in this league can seriously beat anyone. I think that's what makes this league so fun and entertaining. That's one of the many reasons why you and I love it so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see, right?
But that's the thing, though. That's the big takeaway from this past weekend is it's one and done in the playoffs. And if you do get that bye, right, and you go right to the Final Four, you don't have a home game left. You have to play in either it's even playing ground, or you're playing against Vancouver, who's going to have a full roster, right? Or
which
full
sucks,
fans.
by the way. Let's call it how it is. I know you work for the league, so maybe can't be as aggressive on this as I'm going to be. I think that blows. I really do.
Yeah.
And I know that there's some time constraints, right? Because lots of these guys, if you play overseas in Europe, you kind of got to take off by mid-August usually. But I mean, just think of how rockin' Canada Life Center would be for a playoff basketball game. It'd be an incredible atmosphere.
The one thing
we're not
say,
going to experience that.
Well, I mean, I'm under the impression that Winnipeg is going to get a championship weekend very soon, if not next year. I think
great, but then all the other teams are getting screwed. right? And then
Totally,
if
yeah.
let's say you do make it to that weekend just as the host, and then you win, everyone's going to discredit that and be like, "Oh, that's a Mickey Mouse championship, right?"
It's the Memorial
And how
Cup,
is that?
right? Memorial Cup, same way. Like you host the team, you have all seasons to, stack your team. And, if you win, you could have got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs and you're still, and you can win a national championship. I get it. I do appreciate the championship weekend because I think, basing it around the CFL and Grey Cup weekend, it's a celebration of the game. So I do like the idea. And like, there's nothing more exciting than March Madness, right? So I see where it comes from. But you're right. Like, it would be nice to see more playoff games at the home, and it might help drive attendance in other places too, right? Because here, I mean, the attendance is great, and in Winnipeg, it feels almost like you go through the whole regular season and then you don't get the most exciting time of the year. Even just one game, if you're too good almost, right? Or if you're not, you have to be like the perfect level of good, not too good that you're getting a bye, but not bad enough that you lose home advantage. So I do agree with you on that a little bit. It would be nice. I just don't know how you do it. I do like the championship weekend, but it'd almost be better if the championship weekend was just around the championship game, kind of like the Grey Cup. Maybe it's just, you play your semifinals on the week before, and then you go in and you have your, maybe you tie an all-star weekend there. I don't know if you can, like kind of like the Pro Bowl. If the guys are in the game, then whatever. Maybe it's a U Sports All-Star game, dunk contest, three, skills, stuff like that. Kind of make it like the All-Star game, but it's just a different league, right? You can't. They're probably going to do this at the All-Star Weekend in Quebec, I'd imagine. But yeah, it would be nice if they can fill it with something else where at least every team gets a chance to play at home. I get why they have the host team and why they put it in. You want to sell tickets. I get that. People want to see their teams, but it's just, I hope the league grows out of that at some point. And you just get, the four best teams in there. Not to say that, Vancouver isn't good enough to get there, but it's just, it doesn't, even if they aren't, it doesn't matter. They're still going to be there. Right. So totally. Very quickly though, we'll look ahead to, another team that's been pretty inconsistent, the Edmonton Stingers. They were not inconsistent the last time these teams played, though, Taylor. It was a 97-68 win for the Stingers. And it was a sting of a loss for Winnipeg having that happen on home court. That was the first really, really bad performance we saw on home court from them. And now they go to Edmonton, and they can basically give it back to them if they want. And this one is actually huge now. Your pad is gone. You're in first place, but not by much. You're tied with the best record in the league with Ottawa. This is actually a big game. And this is what I'm saying about this weekend that just passed and how quickly the urgency can change and how quickly things can turn around. Suddenly, Winnipeg kind of has to be at a level of playoff basketball in this one, and you can't take Edmonton for granted. And, Edmonton's shown last time they played, they can take over a game, particularly against Winnipeg. So, I guess looking ahead to this one, they've got some time off, time to work on things. Do you think this is going to be a better performance just based on the fact they've been able to recuperate a little bit from what they just, taken two punches to the mouth, essentially?
Glenn Yang had 2 points in that Edmonton loss, by the way. But anyways, 2 points in 2 points in 15 minutes. But yeah, I mean, this game can't be any worse than the last time they played them, right? Like that was terrible. I mean, Teddy. It's kind of funny. Teddy actually had a decent game when they played.
Here's
Edmonton.
The thing, though. Teddy always has a decent game, even when he's not good. Like,
well,
other than that first game, I don't know if he scored less than 24 points. Like that's the thing.
True,
Teddy can.
But there's such thing as an ugly 24 points. Like when you're 1 for 9 for 3, that's kind of an ugly.
True.
The ugly road.
I'll give
24
that, yeah.
points. But yeah, you look at that Edmonton game. I mean, outside of Teddy, Jelani put up 16 as well, but they got like nothing from their bench. 3 of their starters, Okafor, I think Okafor started that one. Okafor, Yang, Chad combined for 6 points. The team actually shot the ball decently well. They shot at 52% from the field, but only 20% from 3. Yeah, it was the Teddy Allen show, and no one else on the team showed up, right? So, yeah, like we just said, there's so much parity in this league. It feels like anyone could beat anyone by 20 points.
Yeah.
But yeah, if next time they play Edmonton, if they get punched in the mouth again, I mean, then I think you're not pressing the panic button, but I think your hand is starting to hover over the panic button. But then at the same time, you know what? Maybe just some teams have some teams' numbers, right? Like Winnipeg and Vancouver, on paper, there's not that huge of a difference between the two teams. I mean, Winnipeg's definitely a better team, of course, but the Sea Bears would be in Vancouver all three times this year,
Yeah.
right? So maybe that could be Edmonton. Maybe Edmonton just has Winnipeg's number. It's too early to say, but yeah, that game, I'm at a loss for words. That was just
Even
a
the
brutal basketball game.
well, even like 3-point wise, I think Winnipeg, yeah, they were 6 for 29, 20%, where Edmonton was 14 for 35 at an even 40. Brody Clark had an incredible game. He was 3 for 4 from 3 points. I think he had 21 points. Him and Isaiah Osborne had the same amount of points. Osborne from 3, he took a ton. He took 12. 4 for 12. He was 33%. But yeah, they were just putting him up from 3-point land that game. And I think that's going to be a big one, man, between Nick Hornsby, Brody Clark, and Isaiah Osborne. Like, those guys kind of had Winnipeg's number that night, so you got to key in on them. This could be a great time for guys like Glenn Yang, AJ Hess, Simon Hildebrand to start building on something there. This is a big road game. You can't go 0 for 3 on this one, on this road trip. That brings you down to 8 and 6. Then you've got some key games, like you have the national game of the week on July 11th against the Rattlers. So that one, I imagine, just on the way they played, you're going to be pretty fired up for that one to be on national TV. But then, you've got Calgary on the horizon. Calgary beat them this season too. Now you're hosting them. So like, this is a big game. I think they need to win this game. It's not to say the season's over if it's not. I mean, that's a ridiculous thing to say for a team in first place, but like, you've got a 3-game set coming up after this road trip where you've got the Rattlers, who you've beaten, but you've got Montreal, who you've lost, and you've got Calgary, who you lost to. So these games are not getting easier. You do have the home crowd on your side. And then you got to finish off with, again, you've got Calgary, in Calgary one more time, and then you got the Bandits one more time, and then you got to take on the Stingers at home. That's where they'll end it. That's on July 29th. But this is not an easy schedule. I mean, Vancouver's the only one they've really kind of, and Saskatchewan, they've had their way with. But yeah, this is tough. How many times? I feel like they played Vancouver a million times this year. They had 2 early on.
And let's not forget, I mean, right? Like, Winnipeg is an expansion team, and I know there's lots of turnover in this league and whatnot, but the first couple of games, I mean, the other teams in the league didn't know what to expect out of this Winnipeg team, so maybe they were able to catch some teams off guard a little bit. But now that they've played 14 games, yeah, you know what Sea Bears basketball is all about. So who knows? Maybe down the stretch here they're gonna crumble a little bit. That wouldn't surprise me either. But I do think, though, this team does have their big 3 alone. I think those guys alone can kind of right the ship a little bit and put them in decent position heading into championship weekend. But yeah, again, if they get smacked in the mouth by Edmonton, go 0-3 on this road trip, yeah, this end of the year will definitely become that more interesting. Because I mean, you look at the West right now, they're all hovering around each other. I mean, Winnipeg has lost 2 in a row. Calgary lost their last game. Edmonton, they won their last game. Vancouver lost their last game. Saskatchewan's lost 2 in a row. Like, there is no team on a big winning streak right now. They're all kind of having their moments in the sun and also having their moments where they don't look so hot. So, yeah, this Western Conference is all over the place.
Well, I'll end on this note. If you're going to go through this lull, as most teams do, it's better to go through it at the end of June, beginning of July, than to do it rolling into the playoffs at the end of the month and, losing your spot altogether. So you've been pooing on Glenn Yang a lot today. So with that, your update on Jared Ogungbemi Jackson.
Well done. Yeah, we talked about it a bit in episode 1. And by the way, for those who listened to episode 1, we appreciate it very much. We know it was just on Podbean for a little bit, so it wasn't as accessible as we had hoped. But we're working out the kinks here, right? We're a new show and whatnot. So for those who went out of their way to listen to that, we appreciate it very much, and we look forward to making things even easier for you guys moving forward. But yeah, so with Jared, to be eligible to play on championship weekend, you have to play at least 5 games. So the Sea Bears, or what's the record? I know they're 8-5. 8-5. I said 14 earlier. They've played 13 games. So basically the deadline date, if they're going to make this happen, is July 14th when they play Montreal at home. So I've heard Jared does want to play for Winnipeg. It's his hometown team, right? His family and friends haven't seen him play at home since he played for the Calgary Dinos, and he'd visit the Bisons or the Westmen, right? So it's been a very long time. Most of his loved ones haven't seen him play pro ball before. So that's important to him for sure. But he is recovering from a bit of a knee injury, and he hasn't signed on with any team as of a couple days ago at least. Hasn't signed on with any team for this upcoming fall winter season overseas anywhere quite yet. So be coming off of an injury, rushing into this new team, and let's if he tweaks his injury again or something like that, I don't think his agent would be overly too happy with that, obviously. But then at the same time, right, you're looking at basketball in Winnipeg right now. I mean, just driving around, you see people wearing Sea Bear stuff. Like, this thing is definitely growing and spreading. And if you're sitting there knowing that you could help this team and they're competitive right now, I mean, that's hard to say no to as well, right? So we'll see. There's not much time left to see. We're recording this on July 4th, so it gives only 10 more days for something to happen. But yeah, he's been talking with the team. The team has been talking to him. They've made it very obvious that they want him. And they're willing to, make it work to make it work for his schedule and whatnot. But another thing too, like I said earlier, lots of guys who play in Europe and whatnot, they typically leave in mid-August. And the championship weekend, I believe, was it the August 12th, 13th, I believe. Yep. So that could be cutting it close. And I know Jared last year with his club that he played for, he had to leave in the first week of August, which was a little earlier than normal. So if a similar situation like that arises, then he wouldn't even be able to play that weekend. But so yeah, right now I would say it's probably unlikely, but
lot can happen in 10 days though. Lot can happen in 10 days.
It could. And like we said, like, this team could really use some more from their Canadian talent. And I think Jared would be the answer to that. He's a veteran. He's played in so many different countries overseas. He's played big minutes. He's made some good money over there too, and rightfully so. So I think that's a guy you could plug in right away. It'd get more interest on this team as well, with him being another local product, having 2 Winnipeg guys starting with Chad and Jared, assuming that he was able to overtake Glenn, would be an awesome story, right? Like, Bomber fans are spoiled right now with Nick Dembski and Brady Oliveira and whatnot. So it'd be similar story with the Sea Bears. So yeah, right now I'd probably put it at, if I had to guess, I'd probably put it at 40%. But I mean, that's better. It's better than nothing, I guess.
July 14th, also my birthday. So 2 things to look out for.
There we go.
All right, so we're running short on time here, Taylor. So we are going to move on to our all-time All-Canadian draft. I'm going to let you take the first pick here, Taylor. I feel that, this is time for you. I'm pretty confident on the team that I will draft. I've got a paper here. I'm going to keep track of our draft. We don't have the draft board. That's where you drop the ball. So
that's where I dropped the ball.
Yeah. This was communicated telepathically, and you missed that.
Oh, I did. But you're actually, if it makes it feel any better, you're throwing me off, because I was going to be the generous one and say, you know what, Joey, you can have the first overall pick. Who we all know who it's going to be.
Nice guy edge goes to old Joe.
Yeah, I wanted the challenge, right? And I figured, the listeners would be, they'd take it easy on my team, knowing that I didn't get that number 1 guy, right? But
all
okay.
In the same.
That's
exactly the lane I'm in, Taylor. That's exactly the lane.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have your pick ready?
I do. But before we start, though, I just want to say, it's kind of funny, though, thinking back to when we were kind of growing up watching Canada basketball. Not that it was on TV very often, right? But when it was, you're watching guys like Carl English, this guy who was a star at the University of Hawaii, or Levon Kendall.
Also,
I think actually played.
Carl English also built his own hoop and played on an abandoned highway. That's how he got good. We learned that in, I don't know, grade 9 or something. I don't remember what class, but yeah, Carl English, buddy.
Yeah, that was my guy. He had a tryout with the Indiana Pacers, who I'm a fan of. So I have an autographed Carl English Indiana Pacers rookie card, which I'm sure is probably worth $4, but to me it's worth $4 million because he's my guy growing up. But yeah, Carl English. And I remember when. Ooh, should I even say the guy's name? That might be given. Actually, I can't even say it.
Okay.
I'll finish the story later.
All right.
But anyways, but it's just cool to see how far we've come, right? Because we couldn't do a draft like this 10 years ago.
Well, we could have, but it would have been a really big deep dive.
It would have been ugly.
Really big deep dive.
Leo Redlands would have been second overall.
So here we go. Taylor Allen with the first pick.
With the first overall pick, Team Taylor selects out of the University of Santa Clara from Victoria, BC, two-time NBA MVP, Steve Nash.
Obvious one. That was a bit of an obvious one there, but hey, a great pick is a great pick, Taylor. All right, that puts a lot on me here. Man, I really thought he was going to slip to number 2, but yeah.
I think you have two options right here.
Oh, do I?
I'm not gonna say them.
Do I?
I think
it's
either this guy or that guy.
Well, here's my guy. Hold on, I gotta get my stuff ready. So with the second overall pick from the Denver Nuggets, NBA champion Jamal Murray.
Yeah. That's the pick.
There was
another option you could have went with, but yeah, there you go. Delayed clap.
All right, you're up. Let me know when you're ready to go.
Yeah, I'm ready. With the third overall pick, Team Taylor selects. He might not be an NBA champion like Jamal Murray, but he's just as good of a guard, maybe even better. We haven't really seen him get the chance in the playoffs to do it yet. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
I knew you were going to take him.
If those two guys actually play for Team Canada, get our butts to the Olympics, we got a chance, man. That's a team that could win bronze. I don't even care who else is on the team. Just if those two dudes alone play for Team Canada. Oh,
that's it's funny too, because I feel like Gilgeous-Alexander, we don't see a lot because he's in OKC. That's a guy I would love to see more of, because I feel like he doesn't get the love that he totally deserves just because of where he's playing right now, like smaller market, whatever. But that is a great pick.
31 points per game this year.
Yeah, no, he's
I don't care who you're playing for.
No, he's stellar. I wish he was on TV more. That's the only thing. If you don't have the NBA package, it's tough to see him. All right.
I think the draft is over, by the way. I think it doesn't matter who you take from here on out.
With the 4th overall pick in this friendly draft, I take the second ever, but should have been first overall Canadian picked in the NBA, Andrew Wiggins.
I can tell you my father is not a fan of that pick.
No.
To this day, every time Andrew Wiggins is on TV or his name is mentioned, my dad brings up when Canada was playing Venezuela. I forget what the exact name of the tournament was, but if they would have beat Venezuela, they would have qualified for, I think, the 2016 Olympics or something like that. And Andrew Wiggins was absolutely nowhere to be found. Like Brady Heslip had a better game than Andrew Wiggins.
Pride of Burlington, Ontario.
Yeah, there you go. So, and Andrew Wiggins, he's been really, finicky, committing to play for Canada and stuff. He went quite a few years without playing for Canada. So,
but he's an NBA champion. I've got a team of champions right now. I mean, that's true. You don't have any rings.
I don't, but I'm about to have another All-Star on my team. With the 5th overall pick, Team Taylor selects center Jamal Magloire.
Okay.
One-time NBA All-Star, but he's...
And affiliated with the CEBL too, right? Wasn't he like GM of Ottawa or whatever? So
yeah, I think so.
Double points, not really, but yeah, that's okay. Okay, so all right, that's a pretty good one. Man, this is tough. This is gonna be the controversial pick, I think. Actually, no, hold on. I'm still on the clock here. I gotta figure out if this is time, because I don't think you're gonna get this guy. Oh man, okay.
find there's lots of good guards.
Yeah,
But when it comes to the big guys,
so here we
we're
go.
kinda lacking.
With the 6th overall pick in this draft, I select center, the Kelly game himself, Kelly Olynyk. Had one of the greatest games in Celtics history.
He's more famous for what he does off the court with the ladies, but yeah. Or no, sorry, not Kelly. What am I? Oh, sorry, I had a different name, and I had my next pick in my head.
Yeah, okay, that's a little. I was gonna say that's you're tipping your hand a little bit here, but
oh shoot,
the best part about Kelly Olynyk when he went away to school, he was recruited as a guard and he hit a growth spurt and had to redshirt his first year so they could teach him how to play as a big man. He's a big man that can stretch the floor. Kelly Olynyk, I'm okay with it.
And in that game against Venezuela, that Andrew Wiggins did nothing. Kelly Olynyk had an awesome
dude.
game,
He's a gamer,
there
man.
you go.
He's a gamer. He's every team he's been on. He's been a difference maker. He's never your star, but he's a guy that you want on your team, man. He can do it all.
So even though I just alluded to who I was gonna pick next, now I gotta rethink it here for a second.
Clock is on.
Just
You're
for
on the
one
clock,
second.
Taylor Allen.
I know.
There's so many Canadians sitting in their chair waiting patiently while the cameras just stay on them and try to get their reaction.
Shoot. Do I need? Yeah, I got to.
All right.
Yep. With the, I think, 8th overall pick. I forget what number we even at right now.
Overall.
7th. Shoot. Damn it. Tristan Thompson, power forward. He's a winner, you know. Doesn't play a pretty game, but he gets in there, grabs the boards, and like I said before,
dated a Kardashian.
His resume off the court is pretty impressive too. So we'll take that on Team Taylor.
All right, he's going for basketball skill and social influence. That was a good one there. Okay, so I'm gonna make my next one quick because this guy, probably as much celebrity status as he is basketball player, played with a great team. Though I hate to say that, it really hurts me to say that. But with the 8th overall pick, Team Joey selects Rick Fox.
Wow.
Skechers, we've got some money coming in. We've got some what's what I'm looking for? Nil payments, name and likeness, face of Skechers. I'm all right with that.
Great actor. He was on
An
One
actor.
Tree Hill.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes, he's got it all, man. He's got it all.
Yeah.
So Rick Fox with the 8th overall pick. So now, just
Although
to keep everybody updated, we each have 4 players. So we have one more starter and a 6th man.
Ooh.
Oh, I keep forgetting to clap for my guys. Little late clap for Rick Fox. Hold on. And then another clap for Kelly Olynyk and for Wiggins. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate you guys all being here, providing the applause.
Okay, I'm ready. I got it. With was it 9th pick? I keep
9th
forgetting.
overall pick, yeah.
9th overall. Okay, 9th overall pick. Team Taylor selects R.J. Barrett.
Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one.
That's a steal. I feel that's a steal. I'm not even.
That's so. Full disclosure, that was the one I was hoping was going to fall to me there. Yeah, that's a good one, man. Oh,
I can't say I'm a huge R.J. Barrett fan, but he's still only 23. You know, still lots of potential there. And yeah, looking at 2 guards, the small forward. I think he's the best guy left on the board. So my starting 5: Steve Nash, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, R.J. Barrett, Tristan Thompson, Jamal McGlure. I feel pretty good about that.
you've got a pretty stacked team here. Now I've got a couple of difficult decisions though. Okay. Man, the clock, I can feel it ticking right now.
There's still some dudes out there.
There are.
There's
That's
a couple
what I mean.
guys out there.
There's a couple dudes. Okay, man. Oh, okay. I think I can use some size here. All right, I'm gonna go with it. With the 10th overall pick, Team Joey's going to select from the Toronto Raptors, Chris Boucher.
Wow.
Big supporter of the CBL as well out in Montreal.
The Slim Reaper.
Yeah, I got
Duck.
Olynyk, but I need twin towers. I feel like I'm okay with my guard play. Wiggins can play a little bigger when he needs to. So, yeah.
No, Kevin Durant's the Slim Reaper. I gave Boucher. What's his nickname? Slim Duck? Doesn't he something?
The Slim
What's
Canal.
Boucher's?
I'm not even sure. I have no idea.
Something like that.
I just know when he first came in, he had a shot and everybody lost their minds because I think it was an exhibition game in Montreal. Then he ended up being a pretty good player for Toronto. So, yeah, no, I'm okay with that. So for my starting five, I've got Jamal Murray, Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Olynyk, Rick Fox, and Chris Boucher. Team Taylor, Steve Nash, Gilgeous Alexander, Jamal McGlure, Tristan Thompson, and RJ Barrett. So that's our starting five. So now you have to fill your bench.
I do.
One man.
I do. There's a couple guys out there that I like still. I feel like
you'll never. I got the greatest. I think six guy. You'll never get it. Never played in the NBA.
Oh,
going off the grid, but I'll tell you the story in a second.
Wow. Okay. Oh. Well, if you're going off the grid, maybe I could talk out loud about my last pick here.
Go for
throw
it.
a couple names out there. I could go Big Mac himself, Todd McCulloch, the greatest player from Winnipeg.
Dude,
all time.
that guy.
Bit of a homer pick.
No,
but...
I wanted him with my other. Yeah, that's a good one. That was my sixth man until I came up with my other one. I was like, nah, I got to go with this guy.
Okay. I'm also a huge fan, like probably honestly, like top 5 favorite player in the league right now, Lou Dort.
Lou Dort.
I absolutely love that guy.
Just another guy that's not on TV enough. Like I agree with you, man. Yeah, I like Lou Dort a lot. So you're not going with Lou Dort. Let me know when you're ready. Let me know when you're ready.
And I'm also, so I got 2 more names I'm debating out there. I'm also maybe the only person on the planet who doesn't hate Dylan Brooks.
Okay, Dylan Brooks is on my list, man. I don't hate him either. I actually quite like the edge that he plays with. Doesn't always work, but it kind of worked against him in the playoffs. But you talk the game. At the end of the day, he's not scared. Dylan Brooks is a guy that I think it was blown out of proportion. They win that game. He's the biggest, or that series against LeBron. He's the biggest hero. But yeah, that guy didn't show any intimidation to LeBron James, and I kind of respect that a little.
Everyone, bows down to LeBron and basically treats him like he walks on water. But yeah, I kind of respect that. He called him out and was like, no, this dude's old. He hasn't scored 30 plus on me, like whatever. And yeah, totally backfired. And now he's without a job at the moment. But
he'll find work.
He will.
Oh, so Dylan Brooks, didn't he sign with Houston?
Oh yeah, you might be right.
Yeah, he signed a big contract with Houston. Him and
Freddie.
Yes,
VanVleet.
Yeah. No, he's no longer unemployed.
Okay, good. There you go. So we're not the only 2 people that don't hate him. Corey Joseph. I mean, that's a guy. That's like the perfect 6th man, right? That'd be a good pick as well. Benedict Mathurin. I think in 3 years from now, he'd be a guy that would be picked in the 2nd or 3rd round of this draft. I think he's going to be a stud. But you know what? I'm going to circle back to my first pick here.
Is this it?
I'm ready. Team Taylor's final pick. We are proud to say our 6th man from Shaftesbury High School, Todd McCulloch. Hit the applaud button. There you go.
The lone Winnipegger to play in the NBA, as far as I know. Big contributor on the 76ers and the years of Allen Iverson, Eric Snow taking on the mighty LA Lakers. That didn't go well, but
2 NBA Finals appearances.
2 NBA Finals appearances.
One of the Nets.
They also beat the Raptors in that. Remember Vince Carter missing the final shot? He was on that team with the Sixers too. So a bit of
and a hell of a pinball player. Don't forget that.
And a pinball guy.
Yeah.
Jeepers.
And I will say this though, one more thing on Todd. I'm in my 5th year. I'm heading to my 5th year with the Free Press. I've interviewed a couple people over the years. Todd is one of the nicest people I've interviewed. Like, just super nice guy, down to earth guy, really cool guy. Has so many amazing stories, even though sadly his career was cut short. Yeah, Todd is one of my favorite guys to chat with, and I've been fortunate to talk to him a couple times. So yeah, maybe one day we could hit him up.
That'd be huge. I'd love to interview Todd McCulloch. He's kind of like the Canadian Big Country Reeves, except he played in the States, and Big Country played in. Anyway, if you ever have time, watch that Finding Big Country, along with The Grizzly Truth. Those are two, same director, pretty good docs. They're fun.
Yep.
All right.
I'd agree.
So with I'm not gonna. Though I liked Corey Joseph was another one that I was thinking I wanted to fit in my team. I like his grit, but he wasn't on the Raptors for the championship team. I don't think so. He missed the cut. All right. The final pick of this friendly draft. Team Joey selects the late, great Eli Pasquale. Now, if you don't know Eli Pasquale, he was one of the best point guards out of Canada. He's from Sudbury, Ontario. Both of his sons played in U Sports, and I think they played a little pro as well. And Steve Nash actually was a guy that looked up to him because he would have been just coming in when he was one of the veterans on Team Canada. So he's played with Steve Nash, and I know they were close up until the end. And he has a basketball camp out in Victoria, BC, which Diego Mafia from Victoria plays with Vancouver Bandits. Did not go to his camps, the Eli Pasquale camps. But throwing out a little old school 80s and, I say 90s. 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Eli Pasquale is my sixth man, as a pioneer of the sport in Canada. One of the main ones.
I think you're gonna sway some votes with that one. I hate to say it. I think that's a good pick. It did not.
Right?
It wasn't on my board.
Nope.
I was slipping.
It wasn't gonna be on anybody's board. I didn't think, man. You gotta bring back the guys that built it, man. Back when there were no cameras, like we said, we didn't have these opportunities. Yeah. But that's mine. So. Great draft, hey? These are decent teams. I think this would be a good head-to-head matchup.
So let's go over our lineups here again, just one more time.
All right.
We'll go.
So
I'll kick it off here.
Yeah, go for it.
Steve Nash, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, R.J. Barrett, Tristan Thompson, Jamal Magloire, and Big Mac, Todd McCulloch, off the bench.
And I have Jamal Murray, Andrew Wiggins, Kelly Olynyk, Rick Fox, Chris Boucher, and off the bench, the late great Eli Pasquale. Good draft.
Great draft, man.
Good draft.
The name I was talking about before we started though was Samuel Dalembert. I remember when he became a Canadian citizen for whatever reason and started playing for us. That was like one of the happiest days of my childhood. I was like, oh my god, we're getting a legit NBA guy on Team Canada. We actually have a shot to beat Puerto Rico now. This is going to be awesome.
And he was a star at the time too. He wasn't a joke.
Yeah, he was a decent player.
This wasn't just a scrub.
Yeah.
He was a decent player back in that day. That would have been a good one too. That would have been a good one. So that concludes the draft and our show. Thank you again so much for listening. Taylor, always a pleasure chatting ball with you. This draft was a lot of fun. Any final thoughts before we go?
No, just if you're listening, let us know who you think had the better team. I mean, I think we all know what the answer is. I mean, Steve Nash, that alone. Steve and Shai Gilgeous. Oh my goodness. How do you beat that? But hit us up on social media. Let us know who has a better team. And yeah, Joey and I, we have a couple ideas like this in the works moving forward for some fun segments we could do to close out the show. Of course, this is a Sea Bears focused podcast, but we're just big two basketball fans, right? So we're going to talk about some other stuff too and do some fun segments and even some stuff not even related to basketball as well. But
any ideas, send them our way. And all in with this, my team has the rings. See you next week. Thank you for listening to the Target Score Weekly podcast. To stay up to date with Winnipeg Sea Bears and CEBL news, as well as future episode releases, follow Joey and Taylor on Twitter and Instagram at TaylorAllen31 and at Joey Slattery CTV. And wherever you're getting the podcast, be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.